Okay, Ralph, you're good.
Thank you very much. Okay, good evening. At this time, we will resume our meeting, the Walton Township Board of Education, the Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 meeting. Mr. Smythe, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Gart,
Here.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. Krupa,
I'm here.
Ms. Mangan,
Here.
Mr. Nasser,
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Here.
Ms. Stites,
Here.
Mr. Mondrak.
Here.
Thank you. And Mr. Agnesiu.
Here. Thank you. Moving on the agenda, we do not have any special presentations or student rep report this month. I will say for a president's report, would like to welcome back all our students and all our staff. For the first week, they did a fantastic job in this crazy world we're living in right now. The excitement of the students and honestly the teachers, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So thank you to all our staff for all your hard work. It doesn't matter what your job is, you're all contributing to it, making this school year very successful so far, and hopefully we will continue. And I guess the next thing we get to look forward to is some fall sports starting in October. And hopefully, it'll be a little bit more of a normal feeling. Also, I'm going to kind of slide over. Yes, Mr. Kartz.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but based on the students report, do we have any thoughts of adding them back to the meeting? I mean, they're back in school, they're being active. Can they join the Zoom and do something, or is that not allowed?
No, it is. And as a matter of fact, I was going to talk to everybody about that for having an update for October, since you figure they've only been in school a few days. I think having them for the October meeting, then we'll get a good feel for the first month and what's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Certainly having them involved and getting the feel of the student body is important. I think it gives a different perspective. So with the president report, I'm also going to slide over. I'm going to skip our superintendent's report right now and go to Board of Education updates. This evening, our board attorney, Tony Scarillo, is here. And Mr. Scarillo is going to kind of give an update on something we discussed last month, the trailer investigation that the board is going to move forward with. So let me turn it over to Mr. Scarillo, and he can kind of give us, give the public a little bit of an update. I will say that the one thing that the board is looking for is, and something he mentioned, looking at the trailer issue from the first piece of paper that said trailer, cottage, whatever you want to call it, up until they were removed. So Mr. Scarillo.
Thanks, Mr. Agnesiu. So since in the 2.5, almost 3 months that we have been here as board attorneys, one of the issues that we continually hear about are the trailers at the temporary classrooms at Central School. And we recognize that before we came, Dr. Cram did a report, directed by the Board of Education, did a report that left some open questions. I prepared an addendum to that report based upon my interview with Dr. Cram. The board has continued to discuss this and has now authorized our office to go forward with a complete investigation of the trailers from the day that the first piece of paper that has the word trailers on it exists with the Board of Education up until the time, the day that they were removed and there was no longer any paper. So I know there are a number of people who are listening to this board meeting through the live stream. We are prepared to interview anyone who wants to be interviewed. And if you are someone who wants to be interviewed, if you are someone who thinks there are other people who should be interviewed, then I'm going to ask you to send us your name and your contact information. Our office has retained the services of a retired Ocean County prosecutor to assist us with this interview and with this review, with this audit. His name is Joseph Macklin. He retired after a long distinguished career with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. He has worked with us on other investigations, and he has agreed to work with us on this investigation. We are going to look at every piece of paper that the Board of Education possesses. We are going to go beyond the zip drive, the famous zip drive that we've heard about that has been turned over. There's at least one person in the public who has asked a series of questions about this whole process. I would ask you to submit your contact information to us, put your name on top of the list to be interviewed. We will start with you, and we will ask every question that needs to be asked. We will look at every piece of paper that needs to be looked at. We have told the Board of Education that we are prepared to issue a final report at the first board meeting in November. So we want to move this along as expeditiously as possible. We are going to begin this tomorrow. We are prepared to answer any question and speak to anyone. We want to put this discussion, close this discussion if we can, once and for all, good, bad, or indifferent. And so this Board of Education can move on to the educating students, which is what it's all about. So I just wanted to update the board. We will provide an update weekly that will be posted under facilities. I believe there's a facilities tab on the district's website. We will produce a weekly update so that members of the public can go to that tab, can scroll down on that tab, see the weekly update. If that weekly update prompts a question, an email address will be there. They can send that question email directly to us, and we will respond to that question. I don't have anything else at this moment, Mr. President, but I'll certainly answer any questions from the board.
Mr. Scrillo, if you could also, could you explain who you represent, who the board attorney represents? Because I think there's some confusion sometimes with the public. They don't fully understand the job of the board attorney and who they actually represent. So if you could just give a little background on that.
Sure. So our role as board attorney means that we represent the board as an entity and the district as an entity. We don't represent an individual board member, nor do we represent an administrator, any administrator or any administrators group. So we report to the Board of Education as an entity. We are retained by the Board of Education as an entity. We're responsible to the Board of Education as an entity. Let me ask the question that might be asked. Well, why is the board attorney doing this and why aren't we going outside? There isn't enough money in this state. There's not enough at stake in this trailer investigation for us to do anything other than a complete and thorough investigation, answer all of the questions, answer the questions that come along the way, and provide all of the answers that we can provide based upon a first person review of every single piece of paper. No copies, no zip drives. I'm not in any way being disrespectful to anyone in the past, but we are going to put our names on this report. My firm is going to stand behind this report. We have done this before in other districts, and we're prepared to do it this time with the same efficiency, the same professionalism, and the same completeness, so that we can issue a report to the Board of Education as an entity that it could stand behind.
Thank you, Mr. Scrillo.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Scrillo, I would just add that your report and its thoroughness and its completeness, which I have faith in, is going to be a major step for the public to build trust in us as a Board of Education. And that's one of the major reasons that we're moving forward with this, to reassure the community of Central School and others of the faith of this board to get to the bottom of this situation. Thank you.
We understand our role.
With that, superintendent's updates. Dr. Handerhan, you're on mute.
Good evening, everyone. Before we move on to the reopening of schools, I do have a few items that I would like to discuss first. Last Friday, September 18th, industrial hygienist Dr. Richard Lynch visited both Wall High School and Central School. This visit marked Dr. Lynch's first on-site visit to the South Gym. The gym will continue to be assessed. When information, including testing data, becomes available from Dr. Lynch, it will be presented publicly. Dr. Lynch also visited Central School. His visit was a planned follow-up to the flooding incident in August. During this proactive visit, Dr. Lynch toured the building and became acquainted with the on-site details of the flooding incident. Dr. Lynch collected air samples throughout the building. I would like to add this step is in addition to the visual mold assessment conducted by the TTI Environmental Consulting Firm on August 28th. Please be reminded that reports relevant to the high school's South Gym and the Central School flood are available for your review on the district's website. These recent sampling reports, as well as Dr. Lynch's assessment, will be made public after reports are communicated to the district by Dr. Lynch. In another matter, last week, this Board of Education requested administration revisit assigning 2 fifth grade classes to the cafeteria at Allenwood School. There was some discussion about possibly using the gym. Firstly, the gym does not have air conditioning, and secondly, there needs to be a space to accommodate up to 65 students at a time with proper social distancing for snack and mask breaks during inclement weather during phase 1 of the reopening plan. So during phase 1, the gymnasium was not an option. Last spring, unrelated to COVID-19, it was determined that there would be an additional 3rd grade class for the 2020-2021 school year. Because of the space constraints at Allenwood, this 3rd grade class is currently assigned to the music room. The space issue was compounded by the need to create an isolation room, relocating small group instruction classes to larger rooms because of social distancing, relocating child study team personnel to a space with locked access and privacy, and providing dedicated workspace for teachers without classrooms. This summer, as elementary principals planned for the reopening, each tried to hold on to their art rooms. Dr. O'Connell and her team revisited the space issues at Allenwood School. Given the space constraints, there were no other options than to use the art room as a 5th grade classroom. Dr. O'Connell and her team communicated this change of 5th grade room to 5th grade parents yesterday. I thank Dr. O'Connell and her team for revisiting this issue and for really thinking creatively to accomplish their goals. In other business, each year, details regarding the graduation pathway for the recent high school graduating class must be shared in public. The graduation pathway speaks to the mathematics and English language arts testing used by students to satisfy the NJDOE testing requirements for graduation. The graduation pathway information for the class of 2020 is as follows. The class of 2020 was made up of 241 students. In English language arts, proficiency was determined as follows. 146 students passed the NJSLA or PARC. 73 students passed with a substitute competency test, meaning the PSAT, the SAT, or the ASVAB. 15 students were exempt per their IEP, and 7 students met the requirement via the graduation waiver rooted in the Governor's Executive Order 117. Due to COVID-19, portfolio appeals were waived by the New Jersey Department of Education, and 0 students were denied graduation because of English language arts proficiency. In mathematics, proficiency was determined as follows. 193 students passed the NJSLA or PARC. 26 passed with a substitute competency test. Again, that's the PSAT, SAT, ASVAB. 18 students were exempt per their IEP, and 4 students met the requirement by way of the Executive Order 117 graduation waiver. Again, portfolio appeals were waived due to COVID, and 0 students were denied graduation in the field of mathematics. At this point, I would very much like to echo my comments from last week in thanking Wall Township Public School employees for working tirelessly to reopen school for Wall students. Last week, I told you was my favorite day of the year, and it did not disappoint. Just to see the excitement in students' eyes, whether they were in pre-K or whether they were starting their senior year, it was nothing but magic, and I am privileged that I was able to experience that firsthand. Dr. Gleason, could you please provide an update on the instructional program as we have just completed our 5th day of school being in session?
Thank you, Dr. Vanderhan. I'm happy to do that. Good evening to the Board of Education and to our families. As we end day 5 of the new school year, I'm also happy to report that in a visit to all of our buildings over the past week, we have now seen what I refer to as smiling eyes instead of smiling faces of our students and our teachers back in the classrooms. And I really want to commend our teachers, our staff, our building administrators for nothing short of sheer perseverance and dedication to returning our students to the new normal, and for working really hard to overcome so many of the challenges that are present in running schools in this new landscape that the pandemic created, from social distancing and trying to teach with a mask on, to not being able to share materials between students, or not being able to give a student an encouraging pat on the shoulder. These are just some of the ways in which school looks very different for our students and staff. So we're learning every day, but we are really committed to continually finding innovative ways to make teaching and learning meaningful for students. And we are continuing to work very hard to enhance the virtual school experience for students and find support for parents of our students enrolled in grades K through 12. Just as a reminder, in the elementary schools, grades K through 5, our virtual school are district classes taught solely in the virtual environment by a district teacher. And in grades 6 through 12, our district teachers are integrating students from home into the live campus classrooms. I do want to provide the board with an update on the elementary virtual school, which currently has an enrollment of 211 students in grades K through 5. Class sizes, with the exception of grade 5, which is a singleton class currently, are all aligned with board policy for preferred class sizes. Virtual school is a very fluid enrollment right now. If you remember, our board policy requires 10 days maximum for a parent to request transitioning to the virtual school. And we also expect temporary fluctuations that could be anticipated. For example, we may have a student who may be temporarily enrolled in the virtual school because he or she could be required to quarantine for 2 weeks, and they're healthy, and we certainly don't want them missing instruction. So we would enroll that student in a class for 2 weeks. We haven't had that happen yet, but we anticipate that that may be a case in which we might have some temporary fluctuations in enrollment. With regard to curricular supplies, there have been some questions from parents regarding curricular supplies for our virtual school students. Currently, our K-5 students, whether they are in virtual school or if they're on campus in a live classroom, have the following items. They have a math textbook for Envision. Science is being taught in the first marking period, so parents will not see social studies materials at home. And if you remember, our district went to Mystery Science last year, so our science program is completely online right now, and students have their logins. And if they are in grades 1 through 5, they've had experience with Mystery Science last year. All of our English language arts programs are using online units of study. Now, we just recently ordered the online units of study, so they're brand new for the school year, but we felt that that was really important for our virtual teachers because we've moved to the Columbia Teachers College workshop model. It's a total of 3 years ago that we started implementation, but the online units of study provided our virtual teachers the ability to have recorded lessons. The curriculum was compacted, and it also provided everything in a digital format so that they could still continue to teach in workshop model without having to go around and make scans and PDFs of all of their materials. So we did invest in that. I think it was a worthwhile investment. What's different this year, and we're really looking at and analyzing its effectiveness, is in a traditional classroom, students would be able to, after the teacher teaches a mini lesson and the teachers practice that skill with the students would then go and get their classroom library book or their book from home, and they would be practicing that skill with their book. Now, in the current pandemic, we are prohibited from having classroom library material shared or curriculum material shared among students. So we expanded back in the summer, we expanded our ebook databases so that we would have thousands more books, but in a digital format. So that's different both in the classroom setting and in the virtual setting. With that said, we're finding that some parents are finding their children, like many adults, don't prefer to read on a digital platform. And it certainly is not, for some of us, the easiest way to read. So we consulted with the Department of Health, and we're getting some guidance about, can we give students books from classroom libraries to take home and use for a period of time, and not returning them and exchanging them from the classroom libraries. And we're getting some good news about that. And we're working to establish a protocol. We're working with principals this week to provide families, especially families in the virtual setting, books to take home and keep at home on loan while they're in virtual school in hard copy, if they prefer not to use the ebooks in the databases. But we did expand our databases we've used in the past to also include access to EPIC, which is thousands of ebooks. And we've also partnered with the Monmouth County Libraries database, which is called Libby. Also use, we have thousands of ebooks there. And so while we will be continuing to use those databases, we'll be working with the principals to making sure we can get some hard copy classroom library books to our students who prefer that. With regard to word study, what we call word study, we use Foundations in K2, and we use Words Their Way in grades 3 to 5. So we typically don't begin teaching word study until October in grades 3 to 5, because we level students based upon their baseline writing samples and a variety of other early September and October evidence of student work before we level them and have them start working in that program. So the parents will not see those workbooks until students are leveled, and we order those books typically around late October. Foundations, we have ordered all of the Foundations kits and have expedited Foundations kits for those teachers that did not have those materials from their classrooms. So we have approximately 5 or 6 teachers that we had to order those materials. Technology. This is an area that, while certainly it can be a strength, it's the main medium for virtual school, it's also proving to be a challenge. And I think that WAL, like many districts around the country, are finding that this is where the Achilles heel is. Some of the strengths have been, we have found that the variety of ed tech tools that teachers are using or are willing to learn to use is big, and they're very effective in providing instruction in a virtual setting. But the weaknesses of those ed tech tools are that the hardware, particularly Chromebooks, do not support a wide breadth of these ed tech tools. And in the last 5 days, when teachers were working, many teachers in the virtual school setting were being kicked out of their own Google Meets. And we've all experienced that, and we're adults and we can sort of manage around that. But when you're a teacher with 20 students and all of a sudden your teacher is kicked out and can't get back in, that's a very frustrating experience for the teacher, for the students, and for the parents who aren't quite sure what's going on. So our tech department, including our actual technology department, as well as our tech teachers, started troubleshooting in the past couple days. And we've expedited an order for laptops, which we have found can handle the capacity for the kinds of ed tech tools that we want teachers to use. We've expedited the order. The order is, we're promised a 1-week delivery. So we feel very fortunate that we were able to expedite the order quickly. And in the meantime, while we're waiting in this next week for these laptops to come in, we do have our technology teachers and one of our supervisors working with the virtual school teachers to troubleshoot issues. We may have to limit some of the add-ons that teachers have been using on the Chromebooks over the next week to ensure that those interruptions are minimal or absent entirely. So we are aware that that's a challenge, and we are resolving those issues. And we'll be continuing to look at the kinds of challenges that virtual teaching and learning presents. And I'm sure there will be more that come up in the future as teachers get really good and keep expanding their repertoire of ed technology. The devices have to be able to handle that. So we're learning that Chromebooks are not necessarily the best device. And so we're working on how we're going to resolve that. But we do have a plan in place for the virtual school. And that's not just for our elementary virtual school. We have teachers at the middle school at Wall Intermediate that all of our special areas and electives also teach completely virtual on their assigned days. So we have laptops ordered for them as well. So that'll be an ongoing plan as we make sure that our teachers have what they need to ensure sustainability. Professional development, another area that we are working very hard to make sure we provide and continue to provide professional development for teachers, not just teachers in the virtual school, but all of our teachers in the new virtual environment. On October 1st and 2nd, however, in the virtual school, we are going to have those teachers at the elementary level participate in 2 full days of professional development that are addressing topics related to enhancing their skills in the remote learning setting. And it's from technology to some of those ed tech tools, some of the curricular pieces that are new teachers that were hired very quickly at the end of the summer had not had the opportunity to really get deep professional development. So we're going to have all of those teachers on those 2 days in 2 full days of PD. So what will happen with students in the virtual school on those days is that they will be provided asynchronous instruction on those 2 days, as well as their special area recorded lessons. And we are working to develop a plan also with our elementary counselors to provide live social emotional support lessons that week. So they will have some interaction with live educators on those days as well. And we thought it would be a good time to really focus on some of the social emotional content. And so that's the plan. Parents will be getting information from their teachers about what will be prepared for those days, and they should watch for that information. I also want to remind parents that may be watching the meeting that they can find a wide variety of recorded workshops from our parent university that we held on September 10th. We've archived all of those recorded workshops on the district website. I sent out a Blackboard email today to all of our parents with the link as a reminder. And those are great teacher-led workshops. There's Q&A in there that parents had similar questions that they may have. And there's workshops for almost all of the ed tech tools that teachers are using, as well as how to navigate the Google Classroom or Zoom meetings and all of the various digital platforms that we're using. More parent universities are being planned in the near future, so parents will be provided information in a timely manner, and we want to make sure that parents have all the resources that they need in these ever-changing times. Lastly, I just want to update the board on next steps, and Dr. Handerhan will be providing more information as time goes on, but we are expanding our focus now that we've opened schools to include the ways in which we can ensure that there is classroom space in the elementary setting to bring students back who are ready to transition to the live classroom at the midpoint in the marking period, which is mid-October. And we have parents that have already indicated their request to transition back. And so that midpoint is October 16th, I believe. And we're using the Road Back guidance document from the DOE, and we're exploring the ways in which we can provide plexiglass barriers for students and teachers in classrooms where social distancing is not possible with an increased number of students. We also have site visits planned. We have our first one this Thursday to districts who've put these practices and measures in place. so we can see what they look like, how they're working now that their students are back in class, and maybe troubleshoot some of the challenges that they've been having. So as I said, now that we got schools open, which was wonderful to be able to do, now we're shifting our focus to how are we making sure that we are prepared to bring students back. So we'll continue to work to ensure that both the hardware and the infrastructure can support the increased ways, and we're going to use technology both now and in the future. So that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason.
You're welcome.
Okay, a lot of hard work coming out of that office. Next, I'd like Mr. Smythe. Can you please provide an update on food services, operations, and transportation?
Sure thing. First, with regard to transportation, the district and transportation department's working out the normal kinks that we deal with in the first week. They're a little bit more complicated this year, one, because of, working with the hybrid schedule. But in addition, we've changed routing softwares, and the communication between our transportation routing system and the student database Genesis that the parents all working has not been as smooth as we had anticipated. And we are continuing to work on that communication, that system, so that the information flows more freely on a daily basis, and that information is more readily available to parents. However, we are going into finishing the 5th day, but again, on the hybrid, it's actually only the 3rd day for some of the schools and some of the routes. But we believe our regular runs, for the most part, we've worked out those kinks. We are continuing to address new tasks that we've been charged with under our new schedule. We are doing reverse late runs so that we are bringing students back to the intermediate school and the high school for after school athletics. We started that today, and we already identified that we have to adjust route times so that students so that we can get our elementary school students home, and then we can schedule the pickup for our intermediate and high school students. But that's new for this year. And we are continuing the late runs to take the students home after the athletic practices. In addition, we are delivering our lunches to our all virtual students. We are currently scheduled to deliver between 80 and 100 lunches tomorrow. They're going to be delivered for the week on Wednesdays because that is the virtual day for the intermediate and in the high school. It allows our bus drivers time in order to do that. I will say that the ordering for lunches for virtual students is still open. It'll be open till midnight tonight. And just as been reminded in the past, you have to have an account on My Payments Plus to be able to place your order for the week. But if you get that order in tonight before midnight, it'll be on the schedule for delivery tomorrow by prepared by the food service department and delivered by the student transportation department. With regard to operations, the district is continuing to address the needs of the buildings. Any work orders that come in, they're addressing on a regular basis. If there's social distancing issues and the need for additional plexiglass to be installed, they're responding to those requests as they come in. Food service, this has been a positive result, or what we're finding with regard to food service from what we first anticipated. The numbers continue to increase. At the high school, we're delivering about 150 meals a day. And again, because we're on the hybrid schedule, we anticipate that we're serving about 300 lunches a day because on a Monday, they're taking the lunch home for Monday as well as Tuesday. So when we deliver or provide another 140 to 150 lunches on Tuesday, that you'd have to double that to about 300 that we're delivering on a daily basis. The intermediate school, we have averaged between 100 and 140 lunches per day. But at the elementary school, which we provide, again, at the end of the day, they're 5 days a week. We started out with about 290 lunches, and they were ordered at the elementary school. At the intermediate and high school, it is a predetermined packaged lunch that the students can grab on their way out the door. At the elementary school, parents are able to order. And for the first week of school, we were doing about 290 to 300 lunches. And as of today, we were up to 526 lunches. And I think that's because the program is becoming, by word of mouth within the student population and the parents, it's a very popular program. And we continue to encourage participation by the students and the parents. And again, this is not just a free and reduced lunch program. This is a program by the Department of Agriculture that is for all the students in the district. And again, it is at no cost to all the students in the district. And we encourage participation within the food program. Any questions? But that's all I have, Dr. Henry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smythe.
Well,
Mr. Addonizio, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Handerham. So at this time, we will open up for public comment on agenda items only. Only on agenda items. So please raise your hand if you have a question on agenda items. Ms. Cross?
Hi, this is Betsy Cross. I live in Wall. Since you did open the meeting with Mr. Scarillo, I would think I'd be able to talk about what he just mentioned. So, couple things. I'm very glad that you're going to be doing the investigation. Could you spell Joseph's last name? I did not get that.
M-A-C, excuse me, M-A-C-O-L-I-N.
O-L-I-N. Got it. And then you did mention that he has done this for other school districts.
No, we have.
Oh, you have. What other school districts have you done this for?
Mrs. Cross, we're not getting into that right now.
Excuse me?
We're not getting into that right now. This is questions on the agenda items.
I know. Well, he talked about this at length for 6.5 minutes. So I think it's very important that, I mean, he did mention that. I would just like to know a couple of other districts because I'd like to look it up. I think that's a fair question. I've been waiting 13 months for answers.
It's unlikely that you're going to find a report written by us in any
Okay.
public domain because we report back to boards of education. But we have done this in North Plainfield. We have done it in Fort Lee. We have done it in other places. Not specifically with respect to trailers, but with respect to gym floors or with respect to other issues, HVAC issues, those kinds of things.
Okay. I guess then my only point is, since you only report it back to boards of ed, this is where I get nervous. So just like this got held up.
No. Don't mischaracterize what I said.
Okay.
We report back to the Board of Ed. Whether or not a Board of Ed publishes what we report on is really a product of the culture of that Board of Education. We don't publish it because it's not our right to do that.
Okay. I just want to be sure this is going to get published. It's going to get published
Oh,
immediately.
listen, Mrs. Cross, you heard me very clearly.
Yeah.
And I spoke very clearly so you would hear me. There will
Okay.
be an update every single week.
Perfect.
There will be a report at the end that will be published.
Perfect.
Very clear about that, Ms. Cross. I'm not going to get into a back and forth. Let me be very clear. And I said to the public, and I know I was addressing you in specific, send us your name and phone number. If you want to be interviewed, send us your name, send a phone number and the name of everybody else you want to be interviewed.
Yes, I am absolutely 100% going to do it. And Mr. Scarillo, I have faith in you. I am so happy you're doing this. I have a good feeling about it. And yes, you will have a list of probably 50 people that need to be interviewed. And I mean, I guess, we don't want them to say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to be interviewed. I mean, if people are working in the district, they have to be interviewed and they have to answer questions. I'm so glad that I didn't stop with this because it's completely disturbing. So
Ms. Cross, let me raise another issue that you might ask about tonight. I have been sent and you have copied me on a pack of Oprah requests. I would like to offer you the opportunity over the next 2 days. Tomorrow's kind of difficult, but Thursday, if not, for you and I to sit on the telephone and talk about those Oprah requests.
Perfect.
An
Yep.
entire stack. I do not want to spend hours collecting documents that I'm going to collect as part of this investigation. So I
Yep.
want you and I to go over those requests and figure out what it is you need now and what it is we can get as part of the investigation.
Perfect. Yep. I'm going to give you a list of the things that Brian Smythe still has not answered and still has not provided.
Okay, but this is now with me. So
Excellent.
we'll do that. I know I have your phone number because I know I responded because you asked me if I got an email.
Yes.
I am going to be, tomorrow's a busy day, but certainly by Thursday, we have a conversation.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, Mr. Cross.
Okay. I did want to go over, do you have any type, this is for the board, do you have any type of numbers about the rehires? How much are we spending on rehires for just teachers that are going to be temporary? 500,000, 700,000? If you have some type of number with that, I would appreciate it. Mr. Gartz, months ago, you asked Mr. Smythe to give a figure on, cost savings since the school was shut down with COVID. And I don't know if you have it, but you never shared it with the public. I think it's only fair that whatever the numbers are, they should be shared with the public in a report. And we've never seen it. So I'd like to see what the savings were and where that money's going. Parents don't want to see it all just go for rehires or new hires. Very appreciative of the staff working, but we have to get a handle on the money. And if you're hiring 20 new staff members, are those 20 new staff members all getting health insurance with single, full family? What
Thank you,
type
Mr.
of
Cross.
benefits?
5 minutes is up.
So
Thank
if you could answer.
Mr. Anizio?
Yes, Mr. Smythe.
Just to clarify, with regard to any requests for documents related to the central school trailers that were submitted as an Oprah request, all the documents in the district's possession have been provided.
Yes.
Mr.
Thank you.
Anizio,
Yes, Mr. Garth.
with possible advice from Mr. Scarillo, is it fair that because this investigation is commencing as soon as possible, that this board will not be commenting on anything revolving around the trailers for the next 60 to 90 days? Is that something we can agree to?
It's fair from my perspective. We're going to provide a weekly update.
And that'll be our statement, right?
That'll be able to be gotten from the facilities tab on the website. And then we'll also, there are probably 2 more board meetings between now and November. I know I'm coming to one of those, if not, well, I'm coming to 2 of those. And Dennis McKee with my office is coming to one of those. So we would also be able to provide an update so that we can take the kind of address the issues ourselves for you.
Understood. My point is not that we're shying away from the issue anymore. We just want to make sure that the investigation is moving forward and that you have an opportunity to do what you've been tasked to do without a myriad of questions over and over, week to week, that will come out in the report, I'm sure.
That's fair. I'm going to invite, again, I'm going to invite anyone who has a question to send that question to us. We don't want to be peppered with questions. We may answer some questions by saying that will come out of the report. We'll take that under consideration. But if someone has a question, we want to make sure that when the report is finalized, we address that particular question.
Mr. Scarillo, could you also possibly provide Dr. Handerhan an email, maybe if you have a specific email you want all questions to go to that we can put on the website?
Yeah, we'll do that for tomorrow, if that works.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Marr, I'm sorry about that. Are you there?
That's fine. Thank you, Ralph. With reaching out to the employees, I would just hope that somebody from the board would give some reassurance that everyone should speak with what they know without any repercussions.
Mrs. Marr, you know what? I've said this before at other meetings, 100%, there will be no retaliation on any employee that wants to speak to Mr. Scarillo about any subject in regards to trailers or honestly anything else. If someone's blown a whistle on something, they will absolutely not be retaliated against. And you have my word on that.
That is great. And I think that a lot of the central school teachers that worked in those trailers are just tired of the whole trailer story. And if they could be enticed to talk again about any of their experiences, they might just easily say, no, I would rather just put it behind me. But I do think that Mr. Scarillo does need to know their stories.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's
Okay,
it.
and just your name again for the record. I'm sorry.
Gail Marr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sunisa Goncalves. Actually just had a quick question for Dr. Gleason. I was wondering if it would be possible for you to give us the exact dates that we can go in and out, like choose to go in or out of virtual and in person. It seems to be one of the questions I'm getting from a lot of parents, and we can't find the actual dates. Like, we understand it's mid-October and then November, but we would actually like real dates that we can put on a calendar and plan, please.
Thank you very
That's my
much.
question tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Gleason, do you have those dates?
Yes, I do. And they are also going, I believe this is second reading and they're in board policy after tonight as well. But I will put those up on the district reopening document tonight. And I'll have a link there so that parents can see, just as for some context for tonight. The elementary students, the parents can request mid marking period as well as the beginning or end date of each marking period. And then at the secondary level, grades 6 through 12, those requests to transition back to a live classroom from virtual can be made at the beginning of each marking period. The transition out of a live classroom to virtual can be made at any time with an advanced 10-day notice to the principal so that we can ensure there's class size, we don't need to create another section, and that materials are in place. But I will put the exact dates up tonight or tomorrow morning at the very latest, so parents will have those dates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Frick?
Dave Frick, 3412 Woodfield Avenue. There are two things I want to comment on. First, I want to commend both Dr. Handerhan and Ms. Sergio. Their communication over the course of the summer and leading up to the reopening has been fantastic. Ms. Sergio has made sure that we all had the relevant information for freshmen entering Wall High School. While the orientation wasn't perfect given the situation, it was as relevant and good as it could have been. I also appreciate Ms. Sergio's positivity through the entire thing. In regard to Dr. Handerhan, I'm continually impressed by her, particularly given her short time on the job. She's been proactive, transparent, and incredibly positive about Wall. The fact that communication came to all stakeholders in regard to the central school situation is an incredible departure from past administrations. So for that, I say the future is bright. But I want to talk about the reentry. The hybrid model, while better than all virtual by far, is not working for my kid. I also know it's not working for many kids. The learning is spotty, but through no fault of the teachers. And the screen time, that's a totally different disaster. More important is mental health. These kids were out of school for over 6 months. I'm concerned about the increased anxiety, the isolation, and now negative feelings towards school. My own daughter, I came home from school. She came home from school, excuse me. She came home from school so happy the 2 days she was in. My complete anti-sports, rephrase, my negative sports kid even loved her PE teacher. And that's saying something, okay? She has been very negative on the virtual days. And today I came home to her completely crying, saying she can't do this anymore. I can't sit in class for 15 minutes and then work on the computer on my own for the rest of the time. I just want to be in school with my teachers and with other kids. Board, I am an educator. I am a school counselor, and I can only tell you that what I am seeing at home is unfortunately quite common. I see it in my students and in talking with colleagues, not just from around the state, but from around the country. It is also very prevalent. The disease numbers in the state of New Jersey are going down. While I have my faults with the state government and their handling of the situation in the last few months, I'll reserve those comments for our neighbor in the northern Monmouth County, because we are in day 191 of 15 days to flatten the curve. However, the rates are going down and the rates for school-age children are steady. They were never high. According to the CDC, the survival rate is 99.997% and the hospitalization rate is well below that 1% mark. And the fact that Dr. Gleason indicated that parents who originally indicated the virtual option are now looking for their students to transition back supports that things are getting better. The kids deserve an education and in a healthy way, both mentally and physically. We can help our children pretty easily through the physical. The mental is the harder part. As such, I am requesting that the board grant my request personally that I am making to have my child be present for in-person learning for all 4 days per week. I would also ask that you extend that to all that request or the availability for that request to all students at the high school if the student and parent requests it. If the student requests it and the parent backs up the request, this board should consider the request of the family. If transportation with distancing is the issue and a parent is willing to take on that responsibility, please allow them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frick, for your comments. Anybody else for anything on the agenda? Seeing none, we will close public comment.
President?
Mr. Anizio? Go ahead, Andy.
Mr. Krupa first. Yes, Mr. Krupa.
Yeah, I just want to say that the board has been receiving letters of many different perspectives from the community. So while I appreciate any one individual or a majority of individuals' position on any matter, this is an individual decision for families and students. And certainly as a retired educator and in the content and specialty that I had and have, I can appreciate everybody's desire for children to have good mental health and success. And both of them, have a hand with each other. But I do want to caution everybody that this is an individual decision and that we are following the guidelines of the state and experts that are guiding those individual, the governors, if you will. So that's important. And so, let's keep that in mind, because each side has its pluses, each side has its minuses. So I have concerns as a parent of all virtual students. And it's something that I've done a little bit of research on. It's very evident that the distance learning, which is the original version of virtual learning, right, has a lot of practice and data for what you might call secondary students, college, high school. I mean, there's a whole industry for that actually that existed before this. So I think, and you look for elementary, there's nothing there. And we're following guidelines because that's what we're required to do. And the numbers of students that are out at the elementary level, which is 200, we've done what I think is due diligence as a district in terms of hiring teachers. And I know there's concerns about that money, but those teachers were hired, additional teachers hired with the understanding, if I'm not mistaken, that these aren't tenure track positions. I see heads nodding. So people, you need to hear that. We need those teachers because you have students, again, elementary is where I talked about my concerns being for middle school with the social, emotional needs. It's for everybody. But for the learning environment, I have more concerns for the elementary. They do not have the stamina. They do not have the attending skills and practice. They develop that. These are children. This is child psychology. They are not even framed yet for the cueing. skills that high school, even middle school kids, they have, or they've developed those because they've had a number of years in the school. So I'm glad that this is phase one, and I'm also glad to hear all the things that Dr. Gleason has said about how we're constantly relooking at this, and the laptop situation, that was excellent too. And that's for the teachers, right? That's not for every single kid. Yeah, that's going to help, as I've had experience with that in Livingston. But I'm a little concerned that we might have to, if this doesn't go the positive route with increased health trends, that if we stay in the virtual, that these class sizes, which work for in-person learning, might not be a good fit with the virtual because of those skill sets that I just mentioned. And your parents, you don't even need to be educated in instructional strategy. What I just said, you will see. They're missing those things, and our teachers are great and they're going to get better at this, but I think we're going to have to look at that in the beginning, in the future rather. We couldn't have thought about it in the beginning, really. So ending on the positive though, I do want to concur that there's been great communication that some of the people have said from the principals with our even the videos, some of which are still up on the front pages of the school website. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I'm really glad to be hearing from my neighbors and my town hall peeps that things, remember, like you said, this is not even a full week, that things in the transition phase right now, which would maybe be accelerated even more, it's going pretty well. And so kudos to all of you, and Dr. Handerhan and Dr. Gleason, you guys worked so hard to lead this. But I do have those concerns that I mentioned, and I do think that I know you're seeing the emails from the public. So I want the people that are listening, we saw your emails, and even the WTEA, we've seen your emails. So thank you for those.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Did anybody else have something or no? Oh, sure. Okay. All right, moving on. Number 13, could I have a motion to approve the secretary's minutes for the executive session of August 18th, the workshop meeting of August 18th, executive session of August 25th, and the business meeting of August 25th?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gartz. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stites. Mr. Smythe, roll call.
Sorry, yes. Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa, sorry, Mr. Krupa,
Well, it's not working.
Yeah,
there you are.
it's working.
I heard you. Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. President? Where
Yes.
are those minutes on the web page in case somebody's looking for?
Mr. Smythe,
Once the minutes are approved by the Board of Education, they're put on the website under Board of Education meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
could I have a motion for number 14? We do not have any first readings. For second reading, 1648, Restart and Recovery Plan, 1648.02, Remote Learning Options for Families, 1649, Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act, 2270, Religion in Schools, and 2431.3, Heat Participation Policy for Student Athlete Safety. Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make that
So moved.
motion.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Hall, second by Mr. Gartz. At this time, I will open up for a public hearing on any one of these policies. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
and Mr. Anesia.
Yes. Number 15, could I have a motion for A through F?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Sanfilippo, second by Mr. Wondrak. Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to add, Ralph, letter A, that the F&F committee is looking at the RAP program and trying to make sure that as we move through the year and see how things proceed, that the budget is doing the best it can to yield a profit to help fund it for future years. And that's something that I want the board to be aware of. And letter D, the recommendation of Holman Frenia, we've already approved them for the following school year. What's happening here is that our previous auditor was contracted through the 1920 school year to do the audit for the year that just ended 6/30. With the hiring of the new auditor, we felt it was reasonable to bring them on as sooner than later. And so we are doing that now. So this is not an add-on or something, a repeat. This is for them to do the audit for the most recent year. And the F&F committee looks forward to having them in, as soon as possible to begin the discussion with the board for the pre-audit, meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gartz. Mr. Nazar.
Yeah, to add to the questions, letter B, I just wanted to confirm that's just the change of use, not the dual use application.
Correct. Item number B is being moved, amended to only ask for approval as a change of use, not a dual use.
Thank you.
I have a question on, I think it's number C. I'm flipping back and forth between screens here, so be patient. Yeah, it's number C. So that is a technology service enhancement to be, right? With regards to helping our existing staff with the service in the district, or is that something else? And was the recommendation part of a consult with our people, if so?
Yes, actually, I was concerned that we had a lot of technology needs. We needed to make sure that we were ready for a hybrid and also an all virtual environment. I felt that we needed additional staffing to get some technology in place. And I worked with one of our senior members, one of our senior computer technicians, to work and to find names. And we found some recommendations from, and actually this is the strongest recommendation from various vendors that have used them in the past. So that was a decision that I had made with one of our senior computer technicians.
Good, Mr. Krupa. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Krupa,
All right, hold on. Shoot.
You're on mute again.
Yes. Yes.
good. Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
and Mr. Anesia.
Yes. Number 16, Dr. Handerhan.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve by consent agenda the superintendent's reports item A through Q?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gartz. Can I have a second? Second by Ms. Megan. Any questions?
Ralph, I have a question to Dr. Hanrahan about letter
Yes.
Q. The PD that's going on is all virtual, I'm assuming. Is that correct? Okay. So there's no travel expenses that
No.
come with it. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I have a question about S3. There was,
Attachment?
I think it's, if you're using the PDF, it's like page 40. Let me see if I can find it. It's related to summer.
Which title, Grant? Do you know which title, Mr. Krupa?
That's why I'm trying to
Okay.
look for here. Summer. It was the one that had the smallest print. It was under Title II. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, under Title. It's so small. Let's see if I can. Summer Explorers. Title III. Title III. Summer
Okay.
Explorers.
Dr. Hanner, can I answer that, please?
Absolutely.
Summer Explorers, Mr. Krupa, is our summer program that we run at West Belmar for our English language learners. And it's a Title III program. You may know this, being a former educator, that Title III funds have to be allocated solely for supporting English language learners in our ESL program and their parents. You'll also see on that worksheet, as I mentioned last week, a number of other districts, because we are in a consortium with 5 other districts.
Right. Yeah, and did that run?
That did. It runs. It did run in the summer, and it was run in a virtual format. We did not start running live programs on campus until we did nights in training in late August at the intermediate school. But we wanted to make sure we provided support for those students. We have, I believe, 3 or 4 teachers that work through that program. And we did do it in small group virtual settings through the summer.
Okay. And then I just have a comment about textbooks, and I'm not talking about the literary titles, you know, like Animal Farm or any of those. But I noticed that for some of the content areas, some of the books that are listed, are they just listed there because they're what they're using, or are these possibly also purchases because they're more than 10 years old? And I know as an educator, I have my favorite books, but I'm concerned particularly like in areas of family life, science, even social studies that, you know, that we're not getting, you know, I don't want to spend money just to have something say a different copyright date on it, but I do have concerns that as educators, we're not looking for more current resources.
That's a great question, Mr. Krupa. And in that textbook list, as you will see, there are, and I'll look at family life as your example, but also some other content areas. You will see books that perhaps are dated, their copyright date could be back from even 2003. 17 years old. Until we have the information that the teacher is no longer using that book in any way, shape, or form, and they request a textbook disposal, which depending on the date of the copyright, there's a process for that. But until such time that we get that request, it will remain on the approved textbook listing. And in some cases, as you know, teachers will use some pieces of a textbook. I think that in more cases than not, in the information age, more teachers are using some parts of their textbooks and using the internet. But I think what's most important to know is 3 years ago, we began a series of program evaluations, which we had never done in Wall Township before. And the purpose of program evaluations is to go through each content area over a 5-year cycle and explore not just the curriculum, but the textbooks, best practices, and we then budget accordingly for the content areas that are undergoing program evaluation. Unfortunately, last year, we were in the midst of science, health and phys ed, at world language, 3 different areas, and that was interrupted. So that's going to delay these next content areas, but social studies is one of the content areas that was expected to undergo program evaluation this year. And then we would also look at new textbook adoption, and then you would see in the budget for next year, possibly the recommendation for a 3-year allocation for new textbooks, which are expensive. The same would go for any of the other major content areas. And then we're also, you'll be seeing over the next couple of board meetings, curriculum and instruction committee meetings, a proposal to revise the 5-year curriculum plan because of the interruption, and then also to include a year where we look at additional areas that include electives, family life, areas outside of the core academic areas. But kind of to circle back to your question, that may not be a core text that's used every day in the classroom, but until such time that the supervisors and administrators at that building are letting us know that those teachers are no longer using that book, we will continue to approve it, because we have to show it as a public work that the teachers may use. So we want the public to be aware of that.
Okay, and I guess maybe we could talk more about this during one of our curriculum instruction
Absolutely.
meetings, because that could raise some eyebrows if the public high up there would look at that and see some of these dates and not understand it from the description that you gave.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Krupa.
Anybody
Thank you.
else? Oh, seeing none. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Mangan,
I'm going to say A through D and F through Q. Yes. I'm going to abstain from letter, oh, I just lost it.
E,
Letter E, due to the fact that my district is part of the consortium who's consolidated in that grant.
thank you. Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Smythe, number 17, business office.
Can I ask for a motion to approve items 17A through K by consent?
Do we have a
moved.
motion on that? Motion by Mr. Gartz, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nazar. Any questions? Ms. Stites?
I guess I was going to ask a quick question, just for I and J, and I guess K, these transportations, is this something that it's just where we're paying to transport students to other districts? Is there a short answer to that?
Sorry, yes, my working with the 2 screens on the agenda items. Yes, these are jointures that we have with other school districts, transport students, typically out of district students that are perhaps that are in another county.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't understand as Ms. Stites pointed out, that's a lot of money. That's transport, correct?
Yes, this is the transport students.
One student, $41,000.
Correct.
We've had others, Mr. Krupa, that are much higher than that, as a matter of fact, in the past.
Maybe finance and facilities can look at that.
I think it's the going rate, Andy. I've seen it many thousands of times, unfortunately.
I'm getting a bus. I don't know. This is
Start a business.
Yeah. You're right. Any other questions? Oh, seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
yes,
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes, thank you.
You-
Okay, at this time, we will open up for public comment on any school district issues. Please raise your hand. Ms. Cross?
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. If you could just answer my question tonight about the health benefits for the 20 or 30 people you just hired. Are you paying for a portion, or the taxpayers paying for a portion of their health benefits, and what are they getting? Are they getting single, husband, wife, family? If you could answer that tonight so it's on the record, I would appreciate it. It's very frustrating to ask questions month after month after month and not get them answered. And I think Mr. Scarillo got a feel for it when I started emailing him on things that I've been asking Brian Smythe for a year. I have two simple questions regarding the trailers that Mr. Smythe, if you could answer tonight, it'll speed up the process for Mr. Scarillo. Could he let us know where the trailers came from? And if they had the educational seal, because that's something I asked for pictures of and I asked for confirmation of, and it never came back in 13 months. So I'm sure he knows. So if he can answer those two questions tonight, it's going to really speed things up in the process. Where did the trailers come from? Who were the owners, if there were one or two? And if those trailers had an educational seal on them that they were allowed to be used for educational use. I would
Why
appreciate
don't you let me get those answers? I have your questions. So why don't you let me get those answers for you?
Well, can you get them Thursday and then get back to me? Because it's going to really.
That I don't know, but I will certainly get back to you and you'll get an answer from me without a question.
Okay, perfect. That's going to speed things up. Thank you.
Okay.
Executive session minutes. I noticed that there was no attorney when the meeting started. So was Mr. Scarillo in the back room tonight? Because you were talking about items that you definitely needed an attorney in the back room for. You had litigation or contract matters or attorney-client privilege and personnel matters. So was Mr. Scarillo back there?
Yes, he was.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Cross, I'll answer that question for you. I had trouble signing on when you were in public. So
Okay.
I got right into the private session instead.
Excellent. I just wanted to be sure. I
Well-
noticed, I think it was the July 28th meeting, when I got the executive minutes back, there was no attorney in the executive session meeting in July. I'm not sure if that was a typo, but I didn't see an attorney name. And I always want an attorney in the back, especially when you're talking about such important items. So I'll give you the date tomorrow, but I think it was July 28th for some reason.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm on the phone. Sorry. And then let me see. I have to get my son shortly. At 9:30. Let's see. Oh yeah, another thing. Last month, Mr. Scarillo, your attorney bills had $1,800 in Oprah requests, but I can't tell which Oprah requests that you were looking at. So if you could be a little bit more specific, because I was trying to figure out, why did they not share Dr. Cram's report of June 26th? Because it never said a draft. And I don't know who said that. If you said it couldn't be released because it was a draft, if Michael Gross said it couldn't be released because it was a draft, or if Brian Smythe decided on his own that it couldn't be released because it was a draft, or the board. So that, $1,800 a month for just July on just a few Oprahs that I kept, putting it over and over again, it just has to be much, much clearer. Because some of these Oprahs, like how Brian says he gave the documents after I asked for them in September, October, November, December, he kept asking for extension upon extension upon extension. So somehow all these documents that are still left have to be taken out of Mr. Smythe's hands and given, and, you know, he should not be involved in the process. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Ms. Cross, I can't go back and talk to, was that my August bill? Because I don't have that in front of me.
Oh, it's a July bill.
July bill, I don't have that in front of me.
Oh,
But I just have, just for the record, I have your Oprah requests that have been forwarded to me for the month of September, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them with multiple items on each one of them. So I'll go back and look at July, but I'm just looking at September as of now. And you just heard me count them off. But I'll certainly take a look at July.
yeah, if you could, I can pull up July right now, but what I'm saying is when I have to keep sending in the same request over and over again to Mr. Smythe, this is getting awfully expensive. You have a page, which I really like how you separate your bill just on Oprah's. And it's $1,805.75.
Yeah, I recognize the number.
Yeah, you know, to me, that's outrageous that, you know, taxpayers are getting stuff paying for this, and it's all to do with the trailers. And then you have another one.
Actually, Mrs. Cross,
Yeah,
it's all to do because you keep making requests.
I keep making the same requests. I mean, I've been asking the same things for a year. I mean,
We are going to try to address all of that.
right, you know, thank God, but I'm glad I didn't stop. We're going to get to the truth. We are going to get to the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up.
Mr. Addonizio?
Yes, Mr. Garth.
Just for the record, the F&F committee is aware of Mr. Scarillo's firm's bills, and being a new vendor, we'll be looking at them as they, proceed through the year. He's been on board since July. And the other piece of that I just wanted to comment on is that his contract does not have a designated date for when his bill is due. So when his bill comes in, and it'll get paid as it, goes through the system. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Good evening, Leanne.
Yes, hi, Leanne Polino. I've been involved for 29 years, and I just started getting involved in listening to the meetings, and it's really concerning to me with the trailer situation. And thank goodness that we do have Betsy asking these questions. And I feel like people on the board are so irritated that she even asks these questions. And maybe your bill wouldn't be so high if when the requests are made and you were honest and we got honest answers, you wouldn't be asking every week, every month. It's really disturbing. And then if you could sit on my end and watch the faces on the screen as soon as she speaks, it's like, oh God, it's Betsy. But she has valid for our town requests. We should know these things. I have friends that pulled their children out of Central School because of the mold and their teacher's foot going through the floor. Did you want your kid in that classroom? They've taken them out and now they're in St. Catherine. So I hope, Mr. Scarillo, that you finally get to the bottom and we're not paying our hard-earned tax dollars to you every month. So let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. Let's get the truth out once and for all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Mr. Addonizio, as you're waiting there, just a comment.
Hold on one second. Seeing none, we're closing public comment. Mr. Hartz, go ahead.
Just again, the high percentage of the board that was not on the board during the majority of the trailer issues needs to be stated again. We're addressing the issues as best and as fast as we can with Dr. Hanrahan's leadership. And as you've all heard tonight, there's going to be some closure in the coming months. It's not anything other than being honest and being upfront. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Mr. Gartz, for the evening?
I did not. Thank you.
Mr. Hall, did you have anything?
No, I'm good. I just, again, want to echo some of the thought, well, yes, I guess I do have something. I wanted to echo some of the thoughts from earlier today about the first week of school. I'm sure, I heard most of my friend group are a little older, so they're, they don't have the children in school, but I do have a few. And while, there's a rocky spot here or there, most of them were pretty pleased with the rollout. And I wanted to give high marks to the teachers again and the administrators for doing a good job. Like I said, we didn't expect this to go off without any hitches. We knew that there'd be a bump here or there, but for the most part, I thought things went as well as could be expected. So again, I wanted to thank the administrators and certainly the teachers for doing everything they did to make the first week, the first week kind of, we were able to get through it first week, 2 weeks. So I just wanted to make that on the record.
Thank you. Mr. Nazar, any comments this evening?
No, I'm just happy to see everything moving forward. Thank you to all the teachers and staff for their hard work. I'll keep pushing on. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Krupa?
No, I thank you all. I've said it before and appreciate the answers that were given by everybody that spoke tonight. And the public
Thank you.
too. Thank you.
Ms. Megan?
I'm very grateful that the district was able to come together and problem solve and reevaluate having that many children in the cafeteria. I know the many parents have expressed their sincere thanks towards that. So thank you so much to the teachers and the administration who were able to come together and to find a new home for one of the classes. I believe it's a more intimate learning experience for them to go on, being in a smaller classroom size. And, as a mom of young kids, my girls are beyond excited to be back in school. They come home with smiles every day, eager to learn and share everything that's going on in school. And that goes to say that the learning environments are thriving and the kids are so happy to be back. And so thank you to all the teachers giving it your all in preparation. And, I know a lot of it is just emotional at this point, getting them, back into the structure and the routine and, passionate about receiving an education and in-person learning. So thank you to everybody. We're very grateful to be in this district.
Thank you. Mr. Wondrak, did you have anything?
Yes, I'd just like to congratulate our education professionals, starting with the superintendent, Dr. Gleason, the principals, the teachers, just a fantastic job. And just to keep in everybody's mind that everything they did is per the governor and the state commissioner of education. And you just can't do anything you want to follow these rules. So thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you. Mrs. Stites?
Yes, I have a few points to make this evening. Speaking personally regarding, the direction that the board is taking with continuing looking into the trailer situation, I would just like to remind folks who may not be aware that the Board of Education has taken a very sincere interest in the trailers for quite a long time now. And we have got to do things in a very stepwise manner. I'm thrilled that we're in the direction we are now. And we remain committed to the public and the students of Wall. So I don't want that to get lost. On a lighter note, I agree with Mr. Frick. I've been very impressed with the communication that I've gotten. I have a freshman at the high school and then also with an 8th grader at the intermediate school with Mrs. Embaum. I think our administrators, I know across the board, have been doing a great job getting us back. I think Dr. Handerhan and Dr. Gleason and my kids are absolutely thrilled to be back in school. And I thank the staff so much from the bottom of my heart. I mean, you guys make the world go round for us. So we really appreciate it. And I hope things keep going in a great direction.
Thank you. So a couple things. Again, thank you to our staff. I mean, the hard, yeah. Oh, Mr. Sanfilippo, I am sorry.
No, it's all good. I didn't want to jump in after you, so I wanted to give you the last. One thing, I just have one comment for Mr. Krupa. I like old books too, especially the ones that are highlighted and underlined with all of the answers. Those are the best books ever. We should keep them. And I would like to thank all of the teachers, all the administrators, superintendent, everybody, you know, from top to bottom, left to right, all over the place. Tomorrow will be the first full week with kids back. I do really appreciate, and I'm so very proud of this district. I really am. Listen, I grew up here, so Wall gives me a sense of pride, and there's no more joy in my heart than to feel like we nailed this and got this right. And you guys deserve all of the credit, you know, for that. And with that, in reference to what Mr. Frick was saying earlier, you know, hey, this is step one, right? So, you know, hopefully this progresses and, you know, we have availability to bring students back, more and more students, more and more days. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that, you know, sometimes you got to jump in the pool. And I feel like we jumped in the pool and now we're going to, you know, start, you know, swimming a little bit better here and there and, you know, take it one day at a time. So, and I really feel like it's going to be a great situation, you know, for everybody. So, and I am, again, very appreciative of everybody and all the hard work and effort.
Thank you, Mr. Sanfilippo. So a couple things again, I wanted to, again, congratulate our staff on an incredible job, you know, first week back. And certainly, you know, I've said it before, all the hard work Dr. Handerhand's put in. I mean, it feels like she's been here for years, and this is week 8, I believe, or 18 years. I lose track. Dr. Gleason, certainly, you know, she's been in the thick of it since back in March, all the hard work. And I know we were shooting for this goal of getting school open so we could kind of take a breath and kind of get over that hill. So, you know, thank you guys so much. Over the course of the last week, you know, driving around and I guess kind of poor timing on my part, I happened to be going by Old Mill School when it was pickup time. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Laughlin. He was out in the street directing traffic. You know, I pulled up next to him and I said, I hope we don't have to pay you more for this. He just laughed, but you know, all our principals are always going above and beyond. I certainly saw the line of cars going down my street for Allenwood School for the pickup. You know, the first couple of days, it was very smooth and it flowed very nicely. You know, driving by the intermediate school, I saw Miss Embaum outside in the parking lot. And I'm sure I didn't have a chance to go by the other schools at dismissal time, and I'm sure every principal was out there because that's what they do. They always go above and beyond. So thank you to all of them. For those of you who have not seen the front page of the Coast Star this week, Mr. Abil from West Belmar is on the front cover with students walking in. Hard to find another a gentleman who is more caring and down to earth when it comes to his students. And you know, I shared a story a couple of years ago about how he was at a PVA event or a police event here in town when a student got injured, and he sat on the ground with them. And the amount of compassion and how he connects is just remarkable. And you know, we have that in every building. So thank you to him. And then finally, I received a phone call earlier, and I know there's been some talk about it, and it comes up every so often. You know, why aren't we back in person having meetings in person? And certainly that is something that I know every member of this board has wanted to do, but unfortunately there's a couple obstacles in our way. One of them, one of the governor's executive orders that we can't have more than 25 people in a room. And typically, you see the amount of people right here. So that's about almost half of our requirement. And plus, just with everything that's been going on, the start of school, the amount of questions, to try to limit people or having some people come in, some people go out, it just didn't make sense. If people, until there's a time where we can have a substantial amount of people, if there's issues like this where people want to be heard and have questions, it doesn't make sense for us to go back to in-person meetings as much as all of us would like it. The other part too is we don't need and we don't want to have people coming into the buildings that are basically sterilized by our custodial staff at the end of the day. We have extra people walking around wiping things down. So we certainly don't want to bring anything in because anybody that's involved in healthcare, certainly as an EMT, I can tell you the first thing you're taught is people are dirty. So we don't want to contaminate areas. And I'm not saying people are dirty, but one of the things they teach you, if it's icky, gooey, sticky, and wet, don't touch it. So that's why we're not back in person. Hopefully very soon, that's what our goal is. Certainly our goal is to have all the kids back in school full time. That's what we're shooting for, and we will get there eventually, but we will do it. We will be smart about it. With that, Dr. Gleason, did you have any final comments this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Addonizio. I just would like to briefly again thank all of the teachers. I want to thank the students for coming back and really doing their best, especially those students who were less excited and nervous and are coming back in spite of their fears and some of the apprehension that they have. I also want to thank the parents for your flexibility. I know that this has not been easy. And one thing about school is that it's a schedule of knowns. We typically know what happens every marking period. We know when the holidays are. We know what the curriculum looks like. And this is the first year of many unknowns and working through a lot of new uncharted scenarios, uncharted waters and uncharted scenarios. So I appreciate your patience. We hear your questions. We will address them as more information becomes available as we move into the next phase. But thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason. Mr. Smythe, did you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Handerhan? You're on mute.
Okay, now I'm good. Okay, I just certainly, Dr. Gleason really hit a lot of categories where certainly the unknown, that resonated with me in what she said, because there was a lot of unknown for so many of us, for all of us really, in this whole experience that we're sharing. And with the unknown is a level of trust. And I just want to really thank the students for trusting us. I thank the teachers for trusting us in working together on this reopening, and parents trusting us with their children. The children are the most, they're a critical piece of our society. It's why we're all here, is for the kids. And I thank you for the trust that you have in all of us collectively as we care and educate your children. I look forward with open arms to the day where we are on a business as usual schedule. I could bring out some pom-poms that day, you never know. I'll be that excited. But it's, the start of school. This was a goal for all of us. And, we're here, we're going to refine it. We're going to make it better. We're going to work together. We're going to, expand our educational offerings. But we're at a point now where we want to start moving forward and start moving this district forward. So with that said, I look forward to tomorrow. I look forward to tomorrow because, with each day, we can really work together to accomplish great things. And With that, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. Students and teachers, I can't wait to see you in the buildings later on this week. And I hope everyone has a really wonderful evening. And thank you for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Dr. Hanrahan. With that, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wondrak, second by Mr. Gartz. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Night,
evening.
all.
Everyone be safe.
Good night.
Good night.